Well, hello
Hello.
there. And
We're on camera. Look at
well,
that.
only if you're checking us out on YouTube, of course.
Yes.
I'm Roger. That's Gene. We've done a couple videos before, but
We were on our video service.
right,
Whatever. Yeah.
Zoom or whatever
Zoom.
that
Yeah.
was. Yeah. But
Google Meet. There's so many out there.
we're giving a shot today on
Microsoft.
video. Gene thinks
Office.
we're going to be doing some sort of elaborate production here. This is kind of what it's going to be.
It's going to be pretty simple.
But we're talking about Carnival of Souls today. Came out in 1962, so it's 62 years old.
It's pretty old.
Right. I think Jigoku was the oldest we've done so far, because that was 1960.
Okay, we're getting into a little old track here.
We are, but of course, a revered classic. Well, I don't know. We'll find out from Gene.
Well, maybe
in a
not
second.
revered at the time, but it's definitely generated a little bit of a cult following.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely worth your time. At the movie, I like to say, is it fantastic? No, but it doesn't suck. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, the basic premise is these three girls, they get in a road race with a bunch of ruffians. They go off a bridge.
No, they're just two guys.
I know.
Just two guys, and they drive up in a separate car, and they say, "Let's race." And the girl, she's just like adventuresome girl, and she's like, "Okay," and they just start racing each other. And usually a drag race is just down one boulevard, straight. But no, they go down these roads, and then they meander around, and then they're all of a sudden crossing a bridge, which is a single lane old 1962
very old school.
single lane bridge, but there are two cars on both sides.
Right.
So each car is very close to the edge.
They
Yes.
take the dive off the bridge. Police show up. They're trying to recover the
The
vehicle.
girl's car takes the dive off the bridge. Yes, of course.
And lo and behold, what's her name? Mary. I think it
Mary,
is.
Mary Henry. Yeah,
Yeah, she emerges from the sea or the lake or the river, wherever
it's a
the car
river.
is. and
Roger, it's a river.
all
It's
covered
flowing.
with-
There's
all
current.
covered with silt and all this. And
Yeah.
then-
She emerges from the wreck. The car goes over the bridge and into the river, and it just amazes me because there's the guys, the two, as Roger says, the ruffians.
Mhm.
They stop, but there's and then the police come, but there's no effort to jump in there and try to find exactly the car, because it should just be right there, right? But no, there's just they throw these lame things
Right,
to try
they're
to.
trying to see where they can find the car.
It's just really pathetic.
Well,
the men,
Very-
the heroes trying to do something there.
Very silty water, though, I think is part of the problem, because you couldn't even see the car once it submerged. So
No.
it seemed like a lot of
But
silt.
then, everyone's there, and then or I would say half an hour later, or even an hour later, then she shows up
Mm-hmm.
out of the water. So I was thinking, cars can have air pockets. It's possible. It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary shows up.
Yep, and she is what is her title? She's a professional organist.
Organist,
Right.
yes.
And
yes.
she's apparently affiliated with this church somehow, even though she's not a religious person on any level.
No, that's a job for her.
Yeah.
She's very talented as an organist, and she found a job working for this church. And so she gets out of the water, and then she just gets herself cleaned up, and then she goes to her job.
Right.
Life goes on, and then as she goes to her job, she passes this ancient kind of carnival building. It's actually a rather large building, and actually it was a real place until about 1970 when an arsonist burned it to the ground. But Saltaire, it was called Saltaire, and in Utah, the southern part of the Salt Lake City. Oh, so southern part of the Salt Lake, and it was built originally at the turn of the century, and it was quite the hopping place for a while. But then, as things come and go, so it went, and it was completely abandoned by this time.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think this movie obviously is extremely low budget. I think the total budget was maybe $30,000 or something like that. Herc Harvey, the director, this is his one and only movie.
Yep.
He was an industrial shorts filmmaker basically, but he's put together enough money to make this movie. He's very inventive in his use of sets. He clearly just found this this location.
Yeah, and it's
like,
not bad.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I
It's
can
okay.
craft a movie around here. He does a really cool thing early on where they're in like that organ factory where I guess that's where they build those things.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
got
and
a
she
really cool
plays
shot
the
there.
organ, and she is really good at it.
Right,
Oh, the
right.
organ is just it's weird sounding, and it's very like horror movie-ish. You know, it does not that gospel-ish kind of uplifting thing, but it's very kind of fingernail screeching on the board.
Right. Right, and organ music is basically the soundtrack to this film, except for one sequence where some dude puts some money in a jukebox. But other than that, you've got this really kind of, I don't know, ominous or just different kind of soundtrack, because how many movies have an organ as their primary musical instrument?
I don't know if I can think of any.
Right.
But yeah, this movie is the soundtrack of the organ definitely fits this. You know, and as the movie goes on, you just start to wonder because she starts to experience some surreal things. She has these images of people that appear to be dead. Mm-hmm. And then things start to happen, like she loses her sense of hearing. And then it seems that like this first happens in a store where she's buying a dress, right? And then the clerk is helping her and being very attentive to her. And then she changes back into her regular clothing and brings out the dress to buy it. And then it's like she is turned invisible.
Right.
You know, the clerk doesn't recognize her as even being there, and other people don't recognize her as being there. And then this starts to happen a little bit more frequently. And then also she starts losing her sense of hearing. She's walking around. She can't hear anything around her. People don't recognize her. So this starts to happen a little bit more. And it seems like she hears these birds, and then that kind of like transitions her back into reality. Right. She starts to hear, and other people see her again. So it kind of comes and goes. But as the movie goes on, this going into this alternate state kind of occurs more often.
Right. And what did you think was happening there?
Well, we've seen the Twilight episode, right? You know, where the girl, she's driving along, and then all of a sudden we see somebody helping her out change a tire, and then all of a sudden she notices there's this guy following her. You know, yeah, and she can't quite escape this really ominous feeling that this guy's following me. And so what has happened really is that she's actually suffered a fatal automobile accident. Mm-hmm. There was no just changing the tire, and so actually she died, and she starts to experience like an alternate reality until she is in a phone booth and she calls her mom, and the mom is like crying, you know, and then tells her that she's dead. Right. You know, so it's a great episode on Twilight Zone. So it reminded me of this, did she really die in the car? You know, and is this some kind of alternate reality? Maybe when we die, this is the steps we go through before we finally, you know, end up where we're going to go, I guess. But yeah, because at the end, she's in the Saltaire, in this open air pavilion, and there's lots of people dancing, but then they start chasing her.
Wow, they're all ghouls.
Yeah, they start chasing her, these ghouls, yeah. And then she can't run forever, and then they catch her on the mud flats. You know, then the next day the police come and they notice her footprints in the sand, and then there's a disturbance in the silt and the sand where she's struggling, and then everything just stops right there. There's no exit from that point, and the police are all baffled. And
they are baffled.
Yeah, and then it takes a shot to they finally have dragged the car out of the river, and then you see the bodies of the girls in the car, and lo and behold, Mary's body is in the car.
Right, and
so she had died when the car went over originally.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how they do this, because a lot of, you know, and this was one of the first movies to really do this. There was the Twilight Zone episode,
but I think that's later.
The occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. No, the Twilight Zone episode was not later.
Oh, it was before this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good job, Roger.
So they did both the Hitchhiker episode and then the occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Have you seen that before?
I have not seen that, no, Roger.
Oh, my God. You need to see
Okay, I need to see it.
But it really fits in with that. But I also really appreciate this movie where, aside from the fact that we've just spoiled the ending for you, which is welcome to Gene and Roger Talk.
We talk about the movies. That's what we do. The whole thing.
It's also a 62-year-old movie. But this one sets it up where other people see her throughout the movie. Other people are interacting with her throughout the movie. So
real people are interacting with her. So you wonder, is she really dead? Is she
right? And it's just they do this very subtle little camera wave where then now she's in this alternate reality, which is still the reality she's in. It's just no one can see her anymore. She can't hear anything. She can't say anything.
Right.
And so it's
maybe it's
really
more realistic of being dead.
Right, and it's really interesting because there's been these flashbacks or flash forwards of these ghoulish creatures just appearing out of nowhere and things like that. And so you're going to like, well, are these creatures trying to pull her into their weird world and things like that? And so I think for audiences at the time, that ending would have been quite the shock. I think more seasoned horror film viewers like all of us.
Yes.
Will
how many? We're up
recognize-
to like episode 100 or what?
Well, we're getting close, but it's like
in the 90s.
You're gonna see
that's 90 horror movies.
Okay, we kind of have an idea of what's really going on here. But I think for audiences at the time, you wouldn't.
Right.
I mean, think back to the original time or the first time you saw like The Sixth Sense. A lot of people, even full-on horror film fans, weren't telegraphing that ending. And so it's kind of the same thing here. The main ghoul in here is the director, all in ghoul makeup. So that's
a nice little fact there, Roger.
So
that's
he
good
was
job.
in that, and
good job.
I think for low budget filmmaking, this is probably one of the high points of it, just because of his use of sets. The editing is very inventive, how he does things.
Again, the organ music is really pretty good.
Right, but I just love how like the editing, it'll be somebody saying, hey, you should go over there, and then the very next cut is just this nice cut to she's over there, or a lot of different little techniques. So he was really being inventive and using a lot of his skills from some of his industrial filmmaking to really try to make this nice feature, and he succeeded. It's
the movie is not bad. It's entertaining. It has likable characters. It's merry. You really are invested in seeing what happens with her. What's her journey? Like you're tied in. You want to know.
Right.
Yeah. So it's there. It's effective.
Yes, it is.
However, I did think it would have been a little bit better at the end when they pulled the car out, if there was just the bodies of the two other girls.
Her body's not there.
And her body's not there, because then it leaves you with a really open-ended movie. It's like, did she really die? Did she try to escape? But she died anyway. What really happened? See, it would have been a more open-ended...
Well, it would have been kind of a Final Destination movie then all of a sudden, where she cheated death, but then she
It would have
didn't.
opened up the door for many sequels, yes. And then the director, instead of making just one, he would have made 3.
Yeah,
Carnival Souls Part 2. Yeah.
Well, and I just don't think that was his thing. I think his thing was, I'm gonna do this thing, and I've got this idea for it, and here's some cool locations I've found, and we're gonna do this, and okay, my filmmaking career for features is over.
It's over.
I'm back to
I thought the ending
short.
wrapped it up just a little too nicely, for my taste. So a little more open-endedness on the end would have made me a little bit more happy.
Right, and the thing with this film is it basically went into public domain almost
immediately. Yeah, like Night of the Living Dead, just like that.
Right,
yeah.
There wasn't a copyright put on this thing. And so what that did actually was probably help this film become the revered classic that it is looked at now. It's on many, many, many 100 best horror films of all time lists. But I think the public domain status allowed it to be shown more freely. So it was shown late night on TV.
Could have been, if it was copyrighted, maybe it just gets lost, like many movies are just lost.
Right.
They're just gone.
And the negative to that, of course, well, there's 2 negatives. One, the producers and directors, and they never saw any money. But the other negative is the movie has been in many different forms, shown in many different forms. So a TV station might show it, and they're going to cut out 15 to 20 minutes of it, so
they can do whatever they want.
Commercials in and all that. So Gene and I have been digging into the Criterion channel.
And it's on the Criterion channel.
And that is...
Although Roger has the DVD copy.
I do have the Criterion DVD. And one of the
with some cool art on it, actually.
And one of the cool things about that, though, is it has the the director's cut, which has like 5 minutes more of footage in there. Nothing horrifying in there. It's just more dialogue sequences, setting up kind of her not feeling like she's in the right place or in the right world or what's going on with her and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do have to, on a side note, I'm going to throw this, sorry I interjected, but this movie does delve into a little more issues, like the roles of women, like we live in 2024, and, it deals like Mary's existence as a single woman, and what is her place in society and how do men view her. And so, I don't know, movies like that are made pretty old, or movies that are old, I should say. It's like a time capsule. Are they portraying the attitudes towards women accurately? Is this the common attitudes of the time? Because she was objectified and not really treated seriously, and she got fired from her job as the organist. On a pretty flimsy reason, because the priest just didn't happen to like the song she was playing. He accused her of blasphemy.
Yes.
It's just like, so much is just playing a song. So what? What's the big deal? You can just play the other song.
Well, it was a song that was synced up with a bunch of ghouls dancing very quickly. So I have a feeling it was not exactly the song he wanted in the church.
Well, the ghouls were not there. Like the minister couldn't see the ghouls, right? But so it's just like made me think of like she didn't seem like she was treated well.
Well, and that's an interesting point you make there too, because he fires her, and then he has this line of dialogue like, remember the church. Remember, I'm here to help you, and all this is
right. Even though I've fired you, you can still you come to the church. Yeah. You're still welcome to be here. It's like, what is wrong with you?
It was really a weird.
Yeah, that's very paternalistic and
there was also
condescending, I think, even.
Oh yeah, but there was also the creepy guy next door who kept trying to hit on her, and then she does go out with him.
It's kind of my ideas. Is like he just wouldn't take no. Like she clearly was not interested in this guy who was just a complete loser, but he just kept going. It's like, is that what guys did in the 60s? What? Maybe I'm too old. I don't know. It's kind of repulsive behavior.
Well,
this guy just kept pushing himself on her. Just. Don't you have a life? Do something else with your life. Come on.
Well, and it's really interesting, too, because he was talking to her like, what, don't you like men? Don't you like the company of men?
Right, like her not liking him was a reflection on her character. Like there's something wrong with you because you don't like me.
This sleazy little guy.
This sleazy loser guy, yeah.
Who drinks at 7 a.m.
Yeah, he brings coffee over to her, one of the weirdest things. And it's kind of nice. He's bringing over coffee, whatever. But then he shares coffee with her. Cup. He has his own cup. And then he pulls out this whiskey bottle. Do you want some? And they just woke up.
Yeah.
So I guess he starts early.
But yeah, it's just a well-done, low-budget film. The director, again, uses all of his resources available to maximum effect. It's got a really eerie, creepy vibe all throughout it. And so well worth your time. Definitely,
it is.
Definitely
short run time. It's not going to take long your time, 80 minutes or so. It's not bad.
About 78 minutes, 85 minutes if you see the director's cut.
But I think you have to see this, right? To get the director's cut, right? So.
Well, I don't know. You could look at the Criterion channel and see what their runtime is on that.
Yeah, Criterion channel. I'm going to throw in a little plug for them. Yeah, they are not bad. Yeah, I would say they got some good stuff there.
Yeah, they really pride themselves on movies you maybe haven't seen before that are of high quality, except for Armageddon. But other than that, definitely a good channel.
Don't get me started on Armageddon. Oh my gosh. When I saw that movie, there were like young people, they were actually crying because I think the Bruce Willis character dies. He dies heroically. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's just...
So,
okay, let's not get off topic.
Definitely see Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, Carnival of Souls. Yeah, it's a winner. It's good.
Gene, what are we doing next week?
We never know.
Well, are we gonna try to do Alien Romulus?
Well, it starts, I think, next week, so we can give it a shot. It's the latest version of the Ridley Scott horror. What is it? That would be part 5 or part 6 or part 7,
who
or
knows?
I think there's a remake of the very original. I don't know. I'm a little scared because FYI, I've seen this pattern in horror movies, is that on expensive, high-budget movies, like directors, producers go in a lot for special effects, and they use the special effects to kind of tell the story. But that may work for thrillers, but it doesn't work for horror. I think for horror, a good horror has got to have a good story. You got to have characters that you're somehow invested in. And to me, this seems like a big budget, special effects laden thing. And when you try to connect that with horror, usually you strike out.
Right, and
we'll watch it. Let's review it, but I'm pretty skeptical.
But like Carnival of Souls is a good example of what you just talked about.
Yeah.
There's no effects going on in this
There are
movie.
no effects. Yeah.
And so again, a lot of times these low budget, bare bones films actually are more effective than your $100 million extravaganzas, because you've got to really be inventive.
Right. And it goes all to the granddaddy of all low budget movies is the Blair Witch Project, made for even less than this thing, and what return on investment was
like $200 and something million.
It was insane. Unfortunately, the actors didn't really see a lot of that, but because they signed up, they signed away their rights or something at the very beginning. But they didn't know that they were going to that movie would hit it big.
No.
But that production company, was it New Line? They made a ton of money.
That was Artisan, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway.
Let's not get off topic.
We will be back next week with something, probably Alien Romulus. If not, it'll be some other random thing. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you the next time.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.